So next, I would like to introduce Stephan Cichos.
Thank you.
From Bayer.
Yeah, rightly pronounced. Thank you very much. Cool. Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stephan Cichos. I'm also based at the Rhine River, but 600 kilometers up north in the beautiful industrial area of Leverkusen. And we heard today quite often that we need to make studies more patient-friendly. I'm from data management, and I would like to share with you today a real-life example how data management and also the study teams can make a difference in making studies more patient-friendly. And I will show you what we have learned with the hope to inspire you in what we have done and how beneficial we found it for us, and at the same time to create awareness as well. And with that, I would like to start talking about our motivation for testing DHTs very early upfront. What is our motivation for it? What was our initial kind of reason to do this? What are the challenges that we have encountered in testing digital technologies very early before the study even started? What are the learnings that we derived out of it, and how do we have implemented them, and what were the conclusions and takeaways? So let's start with our motivation for testing. It all started some time ago with a specific study. It was a non-interventional, very explorative trial. And let me quickly read out for you an extract from the objective. And the objective or the purpose was to evaluate the longitudinal daily activity profiles of patients with heart failure and correlate these with ... quality of life ... just for the sake of simplicity, and morphology to inform the use of wearable activity monitors to develop novel therapies and managing patients. Very ambitious. I wanted to give it a little bit more context. But actually, one of the main objectives was actually to understand the data from two different perspectives in heart failure. First was, what does it mean when patients with heart failure come to a site visit for exercise testing, such as the 6-minute walking distance test? And the other side is what kind of insights we can generate in terms of activity profiling and cardiac functioning if we measure data between the two visits with the help of devices. So actually, we have used in that study two devices. One device was an activity tracker worn in a belt, and the other device was an ECG patch that was worn 24/7, measuring data for 2 weeks and syncing them every 5 minutes to the vendor's cloud. What we have collected with these two devices, just to give you some examples, steps, body postures, such as whether the patient was standing, sitting, lying, walking, jumping, then movement intensity, energy expenditure, and many more parameters. From an ECG patch, we derived heart rate and impedance. And I think in total, we collected around about 200 parameters generated from these two devices in lots of different kind of resolutions. So we had to harmonize, to normalize them as well. Some were measured in 50 hertz resolution, which means 50 measurements per second. Some in just 1 hertz or in 5 minutes aggregations. And I think the 5-minute resolution was one of the, I would say, highest resolutions that we have generated for that study. Being in data management, and we were very lucky that we got involved very early on in the protocol design, and we were even more lucky to be involved also very early in the vendor selection, in the tech selection, because also this is part of the process. It's not often the case, I can tell you, to be involved in vendor selection. And we have already seen that we will get a huge amount of data. And by looking at the 200 parameters and the resolution, I think we counted something like 500 gigabytes up to 2 terabytes of data just for 50 patients. So as we were kind of selfish and we wanted to de-risk the life of the study and we wanted to have prepared as much as possible in advance, we were able to order test devices to create data by ourselves, just to stress test our data warehouse and our data flow as much as we can, because we needed evidence that our current data warehouse is not able actually to deal with those kind of data. So I think it was like 3-4 months before first patient, first visit, we have received the devices and we wanted to create data. I need to mention that we are very good friends with our colleagues from clinical statistics. They learned about it, that we are going to create data, and they said, stop guys, you want to test your data flow, that's totally fine, but can you please create some good data? Because we also want to prepare our stats programs. We want to fine-tune our statistical analysis plan as much as possible. So please do this then organized, yeah? Maybe the first 3 days you just have a normal lazy office day, being in Teams meetings all day long, and the last 4 days of the week you do a little bit of more exercising. So it became a big thing actually. So we handed out the devices to our clinical leads, to our medical experts, statisticians, study managers, the monitors as well, data managers, programmers, but also some of the VPs as well in our company, just to show them what it means when they say we need to be more innovative and deploy digital health. Yeah? And I wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have encountered any challenges, and the presentation would immediately end here. But as you can guess, we identified some challenges. What we wanted to do, what our plan was, and this is a very simplistic sketched mock example, we wanted to see over time the activity and sleep of the patient, and we wanted to put some heart rate on top of it to basically see if there's any kind of relation. However, after we have received the very first data from the ECG patch, we were overwhelmed because it was like so dense, the data. We saw crazy outliers. When I was viewing the device and my daughter said, I'm looking like Robocop because everything was blinking here and all over, I did exactly what the device vendor asked me to do, and not to do as well, but I had like crazy outliers, like 500 heart rate per minute, and also a body temperature of minus 3,000, yeah. But it's maybe not, it's relative. If it's a second out of 24 hours, yeah, in such density, it's maybe fine. But you need to come up with some good techniques actually to deal with that data. Same for the activity data, yeah, which actually shows that I'm sitting and standing up. But yeah, we were overwhelmed with the data, and we learned just from the data point of view, that the vendor's device data models are more efficient than what we are using in pharma. Yeah? So we are using the classic CTIS SCTM data model, which is in a vertical order, but what the vendors are delivering is in horizontal, so column, 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 much more storage efficient, and we need to deal with this as well. Then we may need additional data resolutions. So who needs maybe steps per second? Yeah, maybe steps per day would be sufficient. The other question is, who need nanoseconds of heart rate? Yeah? So do we want to derive it by ourselves? Might be rocket science. Yeah? Best is, of course, if the vendor with their own kind of intellectual property kind of algorithm is giving you that data. Yeah? And then, of course, where can this kind of data be dropped? Yeah? So who drops 500 gigabyte on an SharePoint? So we need to come up with some more sophisticated techniques to bring the data in. So we stress test our data flows, but what else have we experienced? So I told you that we have handed out the devices to lots of different colleagues, and we think, so first of all, we are all healthy. This is number one. Number two is we all think that we can deal with technology and complexity. We can deal with complex SOPs, we can deal with proper complex Gantt charts, Excel files, programming code, etc. But what we learned is that we struggle. We have used the user manuals for the sites, we have used the user manuals for the patients, and we were thinking if we are struggling in configuring that device and getting off the ECG patch after 2 weeks, putting a new one on, trying to calibrate them with a different device, it sounded all very easy, but it didn't work, and we were struggling. So therefore we thought, if we struggle by putting ourselves into the shoes of the patient, then this is not going to work. We need to work with the vendor, we need to work on better trainings, on better user manuals, but not just thinking about our patients as well. More important is as well the sites, because the sites are the direct contacts for the patients. And if the site are not feeling kind of confident in explaining on how the patient should do this at home, etc., and then basically it's set for failure already. I have a very lots of different interesting quotes on here, and I think you can download the presentation anyway after the conference, but I attended a presentation from a Swedish investigator, Katarina Berntsson-Blom, and she was talking about electronic systems from a trial investigator perspective. And you can see some of the quotes are on here as well, so gives good food for thought. And that was a picture from her office room. So actions and key outcomes, I take it short. We redefined our data flow. Our systems were not made for this type of data. So we have put a modern cloud environment, computing environment in front of it. We wanted to get rid of all the manual data ingestions, and we are now able basically to ingest the data whenever new data is available. It will be automatically checked. Is the data good? Is the data not good? Anything, any type of data, any formats, doesn't matter how much volume it is, it can be all kind of dropped in and ingested. We have an automated pipeline developed where the data will be processed, and you can also say if there is, I don't know, crazy data, then alert this and that person. But also having the possibility to derive the data in order to do interesting and insightful visualizations. And then from these 200 parameters that I was talking about, to condense the data to the parameters we really need and make them part of our SCTM submission dataset. And remember our mock-up and what we have derived with the new approach. And this is just an example. It's maybe not scientifically super meaningful, but we were able to present in a very nice way, appealing way, all of the heart rate for all of our testers of the devices. And interestingly, we were able, with the density of data, to identify a kind of an activity profile for each of the participants. So a kind of a digital fingerprint of how we have been moving over the 7 days, which brings us a little bit more towards precision medicine. What we have learned from it is as well that we make now a process for it. So as soon as we are dealing with new technologies, with new vendors, we want to take the time, and we want that everyone is fully understanding what we are talking about in terms of what do we really need, what do we not need, putting ourselves into the shoes of the sites and of the patients, involving them as well. Number 3, I have here all data friends to team up, because the stats programmers, the data management programmers, the data scientists, the statisticians, everyone need to know as early as possible before the study starts, what do we want to actually do with the data. So often I have seen, also in other studies in Bayer, that we have collected quite a lot of data, and I think 80% have been discarded at the end. So, which is also, I think, not patient-friendly, and it's also not ethic as well, to collect data that you don't use. So therefore, team up, understand what you get, and make up your mind what you want to do with terabytes of data, and make it common practice. Conclusion takeaways, keeping it brief. We learned that increasing complexity in clinical trials will not just only challenge data management. When we think about synthetic trials, adaptive trials, platform trials, basket trials, EHR to EDC, natural language processing, blockchain, whatever you ECOA, decentralized clinical trials, it's cool, it's nice to talk about it also in this space, but what does it mean for the sites? So, and ultimately for the patients as well. Summary and key takeaways. Learn what data you will get. Not just say, I'm interested in sleep. What does it mean? Sleep quality, sleep duration. What does sleep quality mean? What do you really need? Break it down into what you really want to achieve. Then basically, you also know which is the right technology for you. Make sure your processes are ready. Make sure your data flows can actually handle it. Have good dummy data that we usually don't often get nicely from our vendors. So like perfect data, we want non-perfect data. We want to see all of the issues that can appear to de-risk the trial. Test them, and I think studies will become more complex, so complexity is not something negative. Complexity can be sometimes also embraced with complexity, so let's take it positive and embrace complexity and make it common practice. And with that, I would like to say thank you for your attention. Thank you to Roche. Thank you to Panagora. And looking forward to connect later on. Thank you.